About 5200 BC, men coming from the south of Sicily and on boats of which nothing is known yet, disembarked in the Maltese archipelago. They brought with them women and children, the rudiments of their Neolithic agriculture and a few domestic animals. They found high cliffs of golden chalk, pierced by many dry and deep caves, and settled there. These caverns have served as shelters for centuries, as evidenced by the pottery of all the styles found here. The most famous of these caves is Ghar Dalam in Gozo, probably the first populated island. About 4400 BC there are more elaborate constructions, the first villages of huts, then real buildings with brick walls. The company is structured around 4100 BC, the era of pioneer farmers ends, the era of temple builders opens. The inhabitants begin to carve the soft stone that surrounds them and to assemble cyclopean walls, disproportionate to the tools available to them. The Temple of Gigantia, the first structure of this type in the world, is built around the year 3600 BC. About 60 others will follow, over the next 900 years. Today only 30 temples in about 17 sites survived the damage of time and wars. Already in 1770, Jean-Pierre Howell, a great traveller, had returned from Malta with 4 pictures representing megalithic vestiges. The great temples first existed in the form of paintings, engravings, travel stories. The first real excavations were carried out around 1800 under British colonization, and they are still going on today. Modern men remain astonished at this architecture, so peculiar that there is no other example in the world. Temples with almost anthropomorphic forms, which were found gigantic female statues, to the measure of their habitat. Gigantia means the Tower of Giants. 2 twin structures in the form of 5-leafed clovers, which seemed so great to their discoverers that only giants could have built them. The site of Gigantia was active between 4100 and 3600 BC. And if the Cyclopean walls have so well resisted the weather that they still reach more than 7 meters, it is because they are built partly in coral limestone, much more resistant to the weather erosion than Globigerina, and also thanks to their assembly, alternating the stones of face and cross to increase the cohesion. All the temples that were discovered and excavated had no roof, and no trace of collapsed slabs more or less broken was ever mentioned. The rounded shape of the horizontal arch-corbelled walls suggests that the remaining free part of the roof could be small enough to use wood or branches. Circular holes, which served perhaps at libations, are often found at the entrance of the temples. These monumental ruins were once places of life. Visitors entered dark, silent rounded rooms, ceilings of up to 10 meters, enriched with paintings and sculptures. They found their crockery, statuettes, can be votive altars and niches. As we find the remains of animal bones, we can imagine sacrifice ceremonies in honor of the great replete idols. During the discovery of the site in 1827,
Charles Frederick Brockdorff
FF designed the rooms with their furniture in situ. This is what made it possible to reconstruct these 3 niches, separated by a small altar, which had collapsed in 1901. The small temple B is less well preserved. Hypogeum is the largest megalithic site in the archipelago. It was cleared in 1839. It is a set of 4 temples, staggered about 1,000 years. Some barely legible now, but the largest formed of 5 apses around a large courtyard. There were discovered 2 beetles representing the male and female principles, and above all the Venus of Malta. A statuette, unfortunately without a head, with very realistic shapes if it is compared with the other statues of fat ladies, more common idols. "500 meters away, the site of Najdra shows 2 structures with 4 adjacent apses and a third enclosure opening on the same central courtyard. The walls are of high quality, polished facing slabs, surmounted by 2 or 3 rows of corbelled stones, an ornate altar, engraved drawings. It is in the small temple that we have found curious statuettes with deformed heads, pustular or squamous skin, with the back flayed. This suggests that it was a place of worship, miraculous or curative. The ensemble of Tarxian first appeared as large stones breaking the plowshares of the peasants of 1914. In 1956, 4 temples had been cleared, the largest of which contained a colossal statue more than 3 meters high, unfortunately broken. This gigantic, fat lady was the perfect model of the many statuettes discovered on most other sites. These temples range from 3,250 to 2,500 BC. This site has been frequented and redeveloped throughout the period of construction and expansion of the megalithic temples. Built between the 4th and 3rd millennia BC, the little temple of Buggybear had a curious destiny. Later discovered in 1920, there remains only a semicircular wall, an entrance consisting of 2 raised stones and a transverse lintel, called trilithon, leading to a small courtyard with 2 apses which can hardly be guessed. There are superb coral limestone rocks, carved in waves, spirals and fish patterns, comparable to those of Tarxian and Hypogeum temples, now in the National Museum. The Dolmen Resort Hotel was built around the remains of the temple, which are now enthroned by the pool. The Archaeological Museum houses monumental statues and idols, beds in carved stones, altars and trilithons found in various temples. It is because, despite its drought, the climate of Malta would rapidly reduce to dust the soft limestone from which these 7,000-year-old vestiges are made. Even before building temples, The strange inhabitants of Gozo had erected, not far from Zara, a circle of megaliths, including 2 enormous stones which marked the entrance of a group of underground halls. The circle of Zara, Hypogeum of Malta, was discovered and excavated in the 19th century. It was a 2-chamber tomb containing the remains of about 65 people, as well as offerings of shells, small pots of ochre tincture, remains of bone trimmings. The following excavations revealed many other rooms, caves and natural cavities arranged as necropolis. Part of the place is used for funerary worship, as shown by the objects found in situ, offerings of pearls, amulets, miniature vases, figurines, such as the famous 2 fat ladies sitting on a bed. Near a large stone basin were 9 statuettes of a unique style, similar to no other previous or later human work. We do not know what they mean, but they may have been sacred statuettes manipulated during burials. The remains of about 800 people were found there. Not far from the temples, mysterious ruts carved in the rock intersect like roads. Were these traces of wagons, or those of the hoists mounted on stones that served to move the large slabs? We do not know. The Hellsaflione Hypogeum, discovered at the beginning of the 20th century, has fortunately benefited from more modern excavation techniques, as it is a 500 square meters underground complex that develops on 3 superimposed levels. The upper level, dating back 6,000 years, is made up of natural caves arranged in cells, with ramps and inclined planes, linking with the surface structures, now disappeared. The 2 lower levels have been dug in the rock, artificial rooms, connected by passages, platforms, galleries, with niches, windows, walls adorned with ochre paintings and spiral motifs. The architects dug trilithons, doors, columns, and carved pillars, exactly as in the rooms of the surface temples. And the intermediate level presents an organization reminiscent of the lobed halls of the temples. The burials contained offerings similar to those of Zara. The most famous is the sleeping lady, a corpulent lady lying aside on a bed. Night falls on the islands and on the giant temples. Who were these men who built them? Why did they disappear? Mystery. The answer is perhaps hidden deep under the heavy antique stones.